Hey everybody, welcome back to Drawing 1. My name is Vince Mancuso, and today in our video demo I want to play around with applying tonal values to the basic forms. I'm going to start off with a cube. Now, I want to remind you that it's important that we work fast. You want to work like you're in a race. You do not want to get too precious with the idea of a cube or a sphere or anything like that. Okay, so I'm trying to be perfect, but I'm going to be quick about the situation. Okay, so I want to draw a cube. I'm going to give you a 3-point perspective view so that we see 3 sides. Okay. Now, look at that. This is part of the self-analysis, you've got to do. I try to draw a perfect cube. What I've realized is maybe it's a little long. So I'm going to select it here. I'm going to do a little free form. Here, and I'm just going to shorten it up just a little bit like that. Yeah, I think that makes it look more like a cube. Okay, so that's good enough, right? Perceptually, you believe it is a cube, and that's what's important. So now I want to use the palette of markers that I had selected for myself, right? Remember, in my case, it was 30, 60, 80, 100. And what I want to do is I want to fill in the tonal values, the light, shadow, core shadow. I'm going to make my light source come from here. All right, so from above. I am going to clearly determine that in my mind the light is going to hit the top plane first. So this will be the light value. This will be the shadow value, and this will be the core shadow value. Okay. So now I'm set. I know that my light tone is going to be my 30%. And so I select that. All right. Now I'm going to color this up. Let me just get here my block pencil. Yeah, just fill that up. All right. Oh, sorry. I want to put my light up here. And there we go. I'm just going to edge it quickly. This is a fast way to actually color in an area. Just cut your corners and block it in. You're ready to go. So there's my light tone. I'm going to reach in here and get my shadow. Come down here and get that edge. Okay. Now, the first thing you should do is you block in the foundation values or the main values, right? So when we think about the values that you use to create three-dimensional light, there are basically 6, okay? 3 of which are the foundation or the base. Right? Like if you do nothing else, because you're on a tight deadline and you've got to work quickly, if you do nothing else, right, you've got to get these values in place. All right? They are the light tone, the shadow tone, the core shadow tone, and the cast shadow. Okay? They're critical. So you see right away there, I've created a 3-dimensional looking cube, right? My light tone's on top. My shadow is in the frontal plane. My core shadow is on the side plane. I have not put in a cast shadow, okay? I will do that. Watch how I determine how the shadow hits the ground. I'm gonna do this like this. So if I run my my light right through the corner points and down to the ground, right? Through the corner point and down to the ground, through this corner point down to there. Okay, so I connect like that. And I've plotted my shadow. I take my dark and edge those corners. There's my shadow, cast shadow quickly. Okay. Now look at what I'm going to do here now. Now I'm going to refine things a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of this line here and just clean this up. Just like that. Notice how quickly I'm working. I'm not being too precious, okay? I'm actually, what I'm doing is I'm thinking. I'm using my drawing process here, and I'm visually working out how to, apply the tone, where to apply the tone, what I'm looking for, okay? So there it is. There's my cube. Sort of looks like a cube, right? Now I'm going to apply some refinements to this. Let's see here, and that's that. That's there. Let's get rid of. Come on. Go back here and get rid of that. All right. So I've got my breakdown. I'll get back to my drawing here and just clean up that edge. Right, so I've got my basic cube structure. Now I'm going to add my refinement. So the first three tones, let's just recap here. The first three tones is, first I applied a light. 1. 2, then I applied the shadow. And then I applied the core shadow. And fourthly, the cast shadow. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 5, a highlight. And I'm going to apply a reflected. And I'm going to apply some core shadow on some of the planes. So this is what this looks like. So at the edge, right, of a tonal value, there's always a dark. The dark is always against the light, okay? So for example, right here, right on that edge, right, if I turn around and I just sort of feather a little bit of a light tone here and just give that just a little bit more contrast, just to bump up that edge, okay? This is what I'm doing, right? Just bumping up that edge a little bit, okay? And I take a little bit of this, right, and just kind of skim on that a little bit, okay? Now I'm going to get this here. Get that tone. Just refine that a little bit. And just working those edges, okay? Just working those edges. Now I'm going to get a little bit of this dark, and I'm going to apply some of that ever so subtly right there, right on those edge, just to reinforce it. Okay, and just gonna get some of this. Soften that a bit. Let's bleed that out. Okay. It's just so that it pushes that edge up, gives it a little bit of a boost, right? Okay, and get a nice little blend. See, the kind of thing that would happen, right? Now I go back and I get my liner, okay, and I come down hard, and I come down hard, and I come down hard. Hold that line. Yeah, this is what the contoured line does in a drawing. It just kind of brings everything together, tightens everything up, gives things a crisp feeling. Okay. A little cast shadow right at that bottom edge, right? When something's touching the ground like that, right? It's going to be a cast shadow. This is where light is not getting in. And now I'm going to reach in and get a little bit of a highlight, white highlight, and I'll just come up on that edge and crispen that up right on that edge. Get a nice little crisp white. That's too far. Gotta get that a little bit over there. There we go. And we get that right in there. And come across in there. Okay. And just now for effect, I'm going to put a little shimmer. Right. I'm doing the full Monty. Right. But then we're going to discuss, okay, where you draw the line relative to your time. Right. So here, for example, I'm just going to put a little bit of reflected light right through there. Okay. Some in there, and let's just get a little white right across the top, right? And now look at that, right? It's like all of a sudden that starts to look 3D. Okay, now look at how this breaks down into two sections, right? Like if you do nothing else, okay, you apply your light, okay, you apply your let me just get this here. You apply your your light tone. You apply your dark or shadow, and then you apply your core shadow and your cast shadow. And you do all of that first. Okay? When you're coloring, say 150 cubes, right? You color all your lights first, then your darks, then your core shadow, then your cast shadow. It doesn't matter where you start, but it's important that you do it consistently all the way through because you save time. You work more efficiently, right? You've got to think to work efficiently. We are in a race. We are in a deadline. We are trying to get these drawings done as quickly as possible. Then once you've done that, you go back and systematically you apply, okay, the finishing details if you can, okay? And in this case, right, we apply the highlights on the edges. You apply some core shadows, right? Core shadows. Right, core shadows. And then some, this here, which is reflected light. And there's my cube. Okay? Now, let's do exactly the same thing, but to a cylinder. Okay. So here I am with my values. Let's simply draw here at my y-axis. I'm going to draw my z-axis, right? Z, 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 and then my width, which is my x. Right? Look at my armature, right? Now I establish my radiuses, look, and I draw in my ellipse, right? And I'm going to come down here just so that I get the coordinates correctly. And I'm here and here, and now I'm going to the structure of my cylinder. Okay. My light source is going to come from here. Right? So now I've got a turning away, right? Because if I was to draw my axis here, right through here, and if I draw another one, through the middle, like that, you can see there's the turn of my cylinder, all right? So I know that the top part here is going to be the light. The front is going to be my shadow. And then here is going to be my core shadow. And then the cast will come down like so. Doing something like this. Okay. So now I'm going to tone it. So first things first, right? I put my light tone into place. And because this is now like a cylindrical volume, I'm going to place my pencil block. I'm going to fill in my dark shade. I'm trying to work fast. Speed is God, right? I want to get these decisions quickly. Okay. So now, in this case, I'm going to add my core shadow, right? And now, based on the way that the light is hitting, I'm creating a kind of divisional point, right? And my core shadow is going to come somewhere like that, right? Onto that edge. I'm going to have a little cast shadow on the rim. Going to have a little core shadow on the base. I'll bring that tighter to get that to feel proper. And I'm going to just blend out that edge. This is where the tonal transition happens. Okay, right in there, right? We'll bring some of that tone down in there. Blend that out a bit. Now I'm going to place my cast shadow on the ground. Just going to rim that base just so that we get that happening, right? Edge that. And now fill in my cast. The cast does fade a little bit to the outer edge. Okay. Okay, I can take some of that cast shadow and utilize it here. Look, just to beef that up a little bit. Look, just beef that up a little bit. Okay, give that a little bit more shadow, right? Light's coming from here, hitting that top, right? Now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put a little bit of some reflected light here on the outer rim, right? Okay, little shimmer here on this back end, back in there. I am now going to apply my highlights. Now, let's look at this here. I'm just going to add another layer. I'm going to apply my highlights. So I'm going to run one right down the shaft here. Okay. That'll blend that out. See what we got here. I'm just going to move here to my bigger rubbing tool. Just blend that out. Okay, so now I'm going to dig in with my highlights, and I'll use my limestone pencil here. Okay, so I'm going to get to this edge. Hit that edge with a nice highlight. Notice how my highlight tapers as it moves away. Okay, I'm going to hit that light just a little harder right there, and just bring that up to the rim. I'll do a little blend on it just to get a little lift, and I'll finish it off now with a tight black edging. Okay, so I'm going to come down here with a nice hard black line just to get that outer edge. I'll rotate that around so I get that ellipse feeling just right. I'm going to do a little edging right underneath there, just to give it a little bit more lift. Come on. Okay. And there's my cylinder. Okay, well, so let's just go backwards, right? So if you do nothing else, right, you want to get your light, your shadow, your core shadow, and your cast shadow. Then if you have the time, you go back and you add a few refinements, and all of a sudden you've got a nice slick looking cylinder. Okay, let's turn around now and sort of look at a sphere. Right, so if we're drawing a sphere, we've got a situation here, right? X, again, Y, X, Z. I'm going to create my elliptical forms, okay? Now look, if you don't take the time to measure properly, then your objects are going to be distorted. All right, and you're going to wonder, oh, what am I doing wrong? Well, what you're doing wrong is you're not making sure that the radius is equal. You're not making sure that your 90 degrees are constant, right? There always has to be a constant 90 degree here in the middle, right? Make sure that your circumference now is rotating around and creates a perfect circle around the object, okay? Because this is a sphere. Right, so there, I've got my dimension. Looks pretty good, okay? Light source, again, is going to come from here, which means my highlight's going to be somewhere in there, and I'm looking at a disbursement of light that's going to do something like that, okay? So now, when I begin to proceed to do my tone, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply my light all over. And let's get that going here. I'm going to do it with my chalk. And I'll beef this up, bring the transparency down a little bit, and let's get my light tone sort of in there. Now, at some point, I have to determine, right, where does the light stop being light and start to transition to the dark, okay? So let's say somewhere around here. I'm getting now and I bring this right around the edge, right? Just ever so subtly. Okay. And what I'm looking for here now is I'm going to get a little bit of a tonal transition, right? Right here on that edge, right? This is where the blend has to happen, right on the edge. Now, core shadow. Core shadow, just bring that around. Right around that thing like that. Get that edge happening, right? My cast shadow is going to come down, and we're going to do something like this. subtly enhance that right in through there. I get a little bit of this tone right back in through there. And now I'm going to create another layer, and I'm just going to pop my highlight right where the light is making its initial contact. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of this reflected light just back in there a little bit, right on that edge. Bring a little bit of this core shadow up through in here. Right. And there's my sphere. Okay, basic lighting structure for a sphere. So there you have it. If you manipulate those edges, you bring your core shadow, your darkest dark, your core shadow should always be inside the form. You get back some bounce back light that illuminates the shadow side. Now the important thing about reflected light and bounced light is that it is always the lightest tone in the shadow side, but it must never be lighter than the highlight. Okay, the highlight is the brightest value in the forms. The core shadow will then disappear in and underneath the form, grounding it to the ground. Okay, and you get your basic lighting schematic. Get that illusion of 3D. Okay, basic ideas on how to attack them. Attack it fast, make it quick. Okay, speed is God, right? We got to do a minimum of 150 of these floating in space, and we got to tone them. So we got to move fast. Okay, we're trying to be perfect, but more importantly, we want the perception we want perceived perception. People look at it and go, yeah, right, that's cool, I get it. Wow, look at it. Look at how 3D that sphere is. Okay. That's it for now. See you next time.